Most of us drive past street signs every single day and we never really think twice about them. But every once in a while, you see a street name that makes you stop and, well, wonder. How'd that name get there? And sometimes when you dig into it, you uncover a story about power, industry, and the people who helped build entire towns. This is one of those stories because today's street sign isn't just tied to Carthage, New York. It's tied to the rise of one of, well, potentially the most influential early families in the North. Family that helped shape the economy of this region more than 200 years ago. And the wild part? Well, this story started because I happened to notice a simple street sign while I was in town. All right, so this past weekend, we were in Carthage, New York, quite a bit. We had basketball going on all weekend, and anytime I'm, well, down that way, I always make sure to stop in and visit my Gram. What's up, Gram? If you're watching this, and if you're not, well, say hi in the comments to my Gram. And anybody that knows Carthage, you know that you're constantly driving through these old historic streets. At one point, I drove past a sign that said Champion Street, which was ironic because we actually did all right in the tournament. But something stuck with me there because around here, street signs, they usually mean something. They're tied to early settlers, old businesses, or people who helped shape the town. So I did what I always do. I went home and I started digging into the history. Yeah, I'm a nerd and my family thinks I'm weird. It's okay. And what I found out turned out to be way bigger than just a street name. But before we get into the history, quick shout out to two friends of the show. First up, Squatch Juice. If you're trying to stay hydrated, feel better, and maybe survive a long weekend of basketball gyms and North Country travel, this stuff is legit. Electrolytes, energy, and way better than Poundin's sugary drinks. If you want to check it out, head on over to squatchjuice.com/beardlaws. The link helps supports the channel and the show. And also shout out to our friends that live bearded. If you watch every Beard Laws video, or at least some of them, or know of me and Beard Laws, and you've been around for any amount of time, you already know I've been rocking their stuff, right? Beard oils, washes, butters, the whole lineup. If you want to try it out, head on over to livebearded.com. Use code BEARDLAW. Save yourself some money. All right, let's go ahead and get into the story. All right, again, thank you so much. This is Street Sign Storytime, and I'm super excited. For this one, to understand Champion Street, you actually have to go back to a time when Carthage barely existed. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, northern New York was still largely wilderness. Thick forests, rocky farmland, and rivers that carved through the land like highway. The most important river in this entire region was Black River. The Black River flows out of the Adirondack Mountains and runs north through Jefferson County before eventually reaching Lake Ontario. Today it's scenic. Back then it was power, because before electricity, before steam engines, the thing that powered industry in America was moving water. And the Black River, well, it had a lot of it. So the name Champion Street traces back to the Champion family, early landowners and developers in the region. The most notable figure was Nathaniel Champion, a Connecticut native who moved into northern New York in the early 1800s. Like many settlers after the American Revolution, he saw opportunity in the newly developing frontier of Jefferson County. But Champion wasn't just a farmer. He was an investor and an entrepreneur. He understood something critical about the region. If you controlled land along the river, you controlled industry. So Champion and other early investors began establishing mills along the Black River. These mills used massive wooden water wheels powered by the rushing current. Those wheels drove machinery that could saw lumber, grind grain, and process raw materials. And there was one resource the North Country had plenty of: trees. The forests around Carthage were dense and seemingly, well, endless. Logs were cut upstream, floated down the river, and processed in the mills. From there, they were shipped to growing cities across New York State, which, started, just a few, scattered mills here and there. And then before you knew it, it was turned into an industrial corridor. And Carthage started to grow around it. The Champion name didn't just stay tied to one business or one location. The family's influence spread throughout the region. Just a short distance away sits the town of Champion, which was established in the early 1800s and named after the same family. Their investments helped develop land, support early settlements, and drive industry throughout Jefferson County. So when you see the name Champion on a street sign in Carthage, you're seeing a name tied to some of the earliest economic development in the entire area. Then by the late 1800s, industries across northern New York began shifting. Lumber was still important, but something else was rising: paper production. Paper mills required enormous amounts of water and wood pulp. In the Black River region, well, it provided both. Companies associated with the Champion name eventually became connected to what would become Champion Paper, a major American paper manufacturer. By the early 1900s, the Champion name was tied to paper mills operating across multiple states like Ohio and even North Carolina. The company later became Champion International, one of the largest paper companies in the United States, before eventually merging into larger corporations in the late 20th century. All tied back to the early industrial investments along rivers like the Black Lake River. Today, if you drive down Champion Street in Carthage, it looks like any other neighborhood road. But names like that are time capsules. They remind us of the people who helped build these towns when the region was still frontier land. Entrepreneurs who saw opportunity in rivers and forests. Families who invested in mills, land, and transportation. And communities that grew up around industry powered by moving water. So the next time you drive through Carthage and you see a sign that says Champion Street, I want you to remember, the name isn't random. It's tied to the early settlers who helped transform the Black River region into an industrial powerhouse. A reminder that even the quietest streets in small towns can hold stories that shaped an entire region. And that is the story behind the sign. And that is another Street Sign Storytime. I got to hit the road and find a street for next week. That's all I got. We'll be back. Take care, everybody.